So while we're waiting for others to come in, I want to ask you guys, I have a topic to talk about. But are any of you that are here struggling with any kind of limiting belief in, excuse me, in your business or otherwise that's holding you back? And if so, I would love if you would share that so we could talk about it and see how we might help turn that around for you.
I can share.
Okay.
I'm a new agent, just got my license in March. And I'm having a lot of struggles, just getting myself out there. I don't have a strong sphere of influence. And I wasn't expecting not to be working. I had a part-time job, but I was let go. So I also have this stress of needing to make money. So, and then I just kind of have a lot of self-doubt, like constantly like, oh, maybe I'm not cut out for this. And that's currently what I'm battling right now.
Okay. So let me ask you, when you say having self-doubt, maybe not cut out for this, can you be a little more specific?
Specifically for like door knocking, I think I'll tell myself, yeah, I can't do it. I have really bad anxiety, so I'll get really bad like panic kind of.
Okay. And is there a reason that you're thinking of door knocking as lead generation versus other things?
That's just kind of what I've been told is like from a lot of agents that that's what I have to do. I did do one open house on Sunday with Mariana. I shadowed her and I really liked that. So that's what I'm going to try to focus on
Okay.
is open houses.
I think that is a great idea. And for newer agents, that's probably the number two best way to lead generate is open houses. Door knocking needs to be done with a purpose and with a specific thing in mind. So door knocking for door knocking's sake or just to get leads is not going to be your best way to use your time. So maybe that would alleviate some of that stress and anxiety. Not to say you can't do it, because there are some ways to do that. And so when we start anything new, right, it's and Emily, feel free to chime in with some of this, or Anthony, you guys have been around a little bit longer to help out as far as any things like that that you may have also thought in the beginning. But it's very common in the beginning to feel this way for a lot of people. And it's very common to feel overwhelmed because there's so much to learn. But remember, what's that old joke? How do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. And so we want to make sure that we're not overwhelming ourselves with too much at once, and yet not using that as an excuse to not do what you need to do, right? So let me ask you a couple more questions, Nikki, to get a little bit more specific. First, you mentioned not having that large of a sphere, which is also a common thing that some agents have. So how many people would you say is in your sphere? About?
So I've been trying to enter into command, and I think I have about 30 people right now.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. Do you
Okay.
know more than 30 people?
I believe so.
Okay. And do more than 30 people know who you are?
Yes.
Okay. So the reason that I ask that is because sometimes we think of our sphere as just the people closest to us, right? Our close friends and our family, the people we talk to regularly. But really, our sphere of influence is anyone that you know who knows who you are, right? So it's the hairdresser, it's the mechanic, it's the grocery store clerk, or the person that bags your groceries, it's the barista at the coffee shop, anybody that you know. And people that friends of friends if they know who you are. That's the key. Do they also know who you are if you know them, right? And so I would challenge you in the PC toolkit, there is, I forget what folder it's in. It might be under success tools. Well, I can look. There's like 3 different memory joggers in there. And so I challenge you to go in when you have some time, like time block 30 minutes and go in and open up one of those memory joggers, because it'll ask you some things, and to write down as many names as you can in 20 to 30 minutes. Okay. That's going to help you. I don't bet, I'm not a gambler, but if I were a betting person, I would bet you'll double how many you have in command in that 20 or 30 minutes. Okay. So really just start stretching your mind as to who you know, right? And then if we run out of people that we actually know, that's where we have to go meet more people. And so one of the best ways to do that as a beginning realtor is open houses. And in your area, there are quite a few open houses to be done. I know Emily doesn't have as many in her area. Any change on that front this week, Emily? No? Okay. There is a huge shortage of listings in the Central Coast, and an even bigger shortage of listings that will allow open houses. So, but you live fortunately in an area, hey, Josh, that has quite a few opportunities. So let me tell you, for the good of the group, when you did the open house and when Mariana did the open house, how many people did you have come through?
I would say about 20 people.
Okay. How many of the 20 people approximately were not already working with an agent?
Maybe half.
Okay. So let's assume 10. Mm-hmm. That's 10 new people to be added to the database, right? So every time you do an open house, if your goal is to meet new people and have conversations at the open house with these people and build rapport, and then immediately that day, the next day, no later than the next day, follow up with them to see if they had any questions and be able to continue to build that rapport. Get them in your database, get them on those neighborhood nurtures, right? And if you don't know the neighborhood to put them in the neighborhood of the open house that they visited, because at least it's going to give them something, right? Josh?
Yeah, question about the open house. Like, you would have them sign in on a sign-in sheet asking if they already are working with an agent, right?
Yes.
If they are working with an agent, it's not allowed, and it would be unwise to try to add them to your database, right? Like if they're already working with someone?
So it depends. Okay. So first of all, do they have a buyer's agreement signed with an agent? Okay. If they do, then as a courtesy, I, of course, would not pursue that, because we don't want people to step on our toes. So we don't want to step on other agents' toes, right? Mm-hmm. If they don't have a buyer's rep agreement signed, then it's fair game.
And that would be something you ask, right?
Definitely. And here's a trick, guys. When you are at an open house and you have them sign in, there is a sign-in sheet, by the way, that you guys are welcome to use. It's in the open house folder in the PC toolkit. It's very simple. It's name, email address, phone number, and agent. And what I do when I would do an open house is I would fill in the first line. Sometimes some people might want to fill in 2 lines. Put your friend down, with a fake number and a fake email address, and then put the word no in the agent column. Okay. So that's telling them how to answer that, and then telling them what to do. And a lot of people don't want to be the first person to sign anything. So if you fill one of the lines in, it just kind of helps, right? So here's the thing. Just because they put yes, don't assume they really mean yes. Okay. A lot of people will put yes because they don't want to be bothered. Just like, have you ever I do this every time. Thankfully, we don't have to shop for cars all that often because it's like a horrible experience, right? But cars and furniture stores are probably the worst. You walk in and they're on you like a vulture, right? And so what I do is I say, hi, I let them introduce themselves. I say who I am. I say, can I please have your business card? And if I need your help, I'll make sure I find you, because I don't want to be bothered, right? So the same thing with people that come into our open houses, they'll put yes, thinking that means, we're never going to bother them. And of course, we're not ever going to bother them, right? We're going to help them. So always ask them, who are you working with? I see you put down here, you're working with an agent. Who are you working with? Right? Now, here's the key. You have to pay attention when they answer. If they hesitate and they hem and haw, right, they're probably not working with an agent. So you do want to put those people in your database and you do want to reach out to them, but you're going to do it carefully and respectfully, right? I just want to thank you for coming to my open house yesterday. It was so great to meet you. I just wanted to see if you had any questions about the home. Great. And then you can go from there. Now, if you ask them if they're working with an agent and they say, oh yeah, I'm working with Josh Julian, he's great. Oh, great. Yeah, he is great. I know him. You're in good hands. Just feel free to take a look around and let me know if you have any questions, right? That one you're not going to put in the database, because when they know exactly who they're working with and they can tell you the company they're with, sorry, we're getting a delivery if you can hear the dogs, then you know that stay away, right? As a common courtesy. Is that helpful? Awesome. So is anyone else have that limiting belief or that struggle with, who do I talk to? I don't feel comfortable. I'm not sure if this is right for me. Anyone else struggling with that at all? Josh, okay. Want to give us a little more detail?
Yeah. So for example, like I'm inexperienced as a realtor and I haven't hosted my own open house or hosted one for someone else. I've been recommended to either host someone else's or at least shadow someone's. Do you have any advice on how to get over my lack of confidence and lack of wanting to do that so I can do it for the first time?
Yeah. And you know what the best advice is? Just do it. Because here's the thing, and here's what I can promise you. No matter, and I'll give you a little more answer than that too, right? But no matter how nervous you are, you will do much better than you think you will. That I can promise you. And once you do it the first time, you're going to get better every time. And here's the thing. The people that come in and visit, as long as you're greeting them, they don't know any different, right? So they don't know that you don't know what you're doing or you've never done this before. You don't have to wear that on your forehead, right? It's as simple as, there's things to do before the open house, but when you're there, greeting them, having them sign in, asking if they have questions, letting them look around, saying goodbye before they leave, and following up, right? And you don't have to have ever done one before to do that. Now, shadowing somebody, you can, if there's an agent who will allow that. Not every agent likes to do that, so don't be surprised if they don't. Here's one thing that I will caution everybody. If an agent does allow you to do an open house for them, for their listing, those leads are yours, okay? So if an agent tries to say, hey, I want a referral fee, or I want all the leads or whatever, do not do that. Don't do an open house for somebody that does that, okay? Because you're the one that's doing all the work, so the leads are yours, okay? You're helping them bring attention to their listing. That's how they're benefiting. And so if they're going to allow you to do that, then make sure that you keep the leads. Yes, Josh?
Is there some sort of checklist? Like you mentioned some of the things to do when doing an open house. Is there a checklist to refer to make sure you're doing everything you're supposed to and nothing you're not?
Yes, we have some information in the PC toolkit in the open house folder. You can also watch the open house video that's in the on-demand series, because that will talk you through the open house. There's also, it should be in there, and it's also in the video list in the toolkit. There is a shadow type video. So that's where We did a video with different types of people that could come through your open house and how to talk to them and how to handle that. So it's done in the way of like, we greet them, we have them sign in, we might have a little chit chat and we say bye. So it's not like we're doing the whole thing, but it shows you the process and what to say and do to different types of people that could come through.
And that's on the YouTube channel, right? Your Jodi Jolly YouTube
It should
channel?
be.
Yeah.
It should be.
I think I've seen one or two of those on there.
Yeah, I think it is on the YouTube channel. I think that's where they are housed. Yeah, so if you have that, great. If not, you can get to it through the toolkit in the video list.
What about just going to open houses on the weekend? Even if you can't find somebody that wants you to shadow them, you could just go to, 3 or 4 and pick up what you like that other agents do, or find if they do something that annoys the heck out of you, make sure you don't do that one.
Yeah, that's a great idea. They don't have to know that you're there to see how things are done. You can just say, hey, I'm a realtor getting to know the market and noticed this open house and wanted to come through, right? So you can kind of pay attention to how they're talking to people. And Emily makes a good point. If you don't like what they're doing, you can also learn what not to do. And there's all kinds of tips and tricks for open houses. So we won't take the time to go through that today, unless that benefits everybody and there's nothing else to talk about. But really, when it comes to those fears, those limiting beliefs, really take that phrase, right? I don't know if I'm cut out for this. I am cut out for this. I just have to figure out how to do it, right? Because there's a reason. Nikki, why did you get your real estate license to begin with?
Oh, sorry, I was trying to unmute. I really liked real estate, and that I wanted to finish my goal of finishing school.
Okay. So you mentioned having just lost your part-time, was it a part-time job?
Yes.
Okay. So how much money, if I may ask this, and if you're not comfortable saying to the group, it's okay, but how much do you need to replace a month?
I'm sorry, it cut out.
How much money do you need to replace per month?
I just need at least $800 a month, because it's just I pay for my daughter's preschool and car insurance.
Okay, so 800. I mean, you sell one house in your area, and you're good for half a year or more, right? Now, that's not to discourage you from doing more, because you can do way more than one.
Yeah.
But the reason I say that is because maybe that takes a little pressure off, right? It's not like you suddenly have to go get 5 things into escrow because you just lost your job, right? Mm-hmm. So not making light of that, by the way. And yet, if you here's the thing. One of the things that I was going to bring up today, and this might be a good spot to do this. So if anybody else has a limiting belief or something that they really want to talk about, please put it in the chat so that you don't forget and so that I don't forget to address it. But one of the things that I had wanted to bring out today, and I'm going to read you a few excerpts from the Shift book. Has anyone already read the Shift book by Gary Keller? Anyone? No? Okay. So this is a phenomenal book. It's kind of the sister book of the MREA, right? The MREA is all the systems and the models and the best practices. And then the Shift book talks about what we need to do when the market shifts. And a market shift is simply a change in the market. So typically we have to learn a different way of doing things. And if we shift from a hot market into a cooler market, we got to step up our game. And that's typically when the tactics from the Shift book really make sense. If we go from a slower market to a hot market, we typically can handle that, right? But let me just, I think particularly for a couple of you, this is going to be beneficial. So I'm going to read a little bits and pieces of this, not the whole thing. But what's key about this is the thoughts that I'm going to read to you are from Gary Keller himself. So this is the thinking that he had back when he started. Okay. So I want to set that stage because, I mean, you guys all know who Gary Keller is, right? Okay. So he is obviously a massively successful human being with a massively successful business. And so some of the things that held him back, and partly why he shared them, is to help encourage others. Okay. So I'm going to start with moving past your myths. So if you ever do get this, this is on page 51 of this book. It says, let's face facts. Lead generating to find potential customers just might not be your favorite business subject. Anyone agree with that? Lead gen's not our favorite part of the job. I think most people would agree with that. And then there's some that absolutely love to do it, and that's great. Okay, so if you're like most, it probably isn't why you got into real estate and isn't something that gets you excited to go to work every day. Okay. The truth, however, is that you actually got into two businesses. You got into the helping people with their real estate needs business, and you got into the lead generation business because there's no one to help without the leads, right? Okay. So the bottom line is that without motivated leads, there's no people to help. To have sales, you must have leads. Okay. So this is the key part. He says, please realize that I'm actually describing myself. I must admit that I honestly didn't enjoy or fully embrace the lead generating part of our business at first. It wasn't until I realized that lead generating was something I had to do and master in order to get to do things I really enjoyed doing that I actually buckled down and got serious about it. Okay. Then something magical happened. The more I did it, the better I got. And the better I got, the more I liked it. It turns out that I had held a handful of myths in my head that were holding me back. Once they were dispelled, I was over the hump and off and running. Okay, so he says, from a distance, I thought lead generation was really difficult, but after I diligently applied myself to it for a reasonable length of time, remember, this doesn't happen overnight, I came to see that it was actually quite easy and could even be fun. I was confusing effort with enjoyment. I also thought I was going to be too busy and wouldn't have the time to lead generate. Anybody thought that? But what are you going to be busy with if you don't have leads to help? Making fancy flyers and ordering business cards and fancy presentations with no one to show them to?
Busy with classes.
Oh, we'll talk about that in a minute. Remind me, put classes. Hey, Josh, do me a favor, but just put the word classes in the chat.
Gotcha.
Okay, because that's an important piece. Okay. However, as I focused on doing it every day, I discovered it wasn't an issue of having time, but an issue of making time and then protecting it. So in other words, when he calendared the time, he didn't let anything get in the way of that. Okay. As I learned to manage my time better, I discovered I had all the time I needed. Then intimidation set in. I believed I couldn't lead generate because I didn't know what to do or say and was afraid of making mistakes. Anybody else identify? Okay. However, as I constantly got after it, I found that lead generation is nothing more than a set of tasks and skills that are all well documented. I caught on that with practice and homework, these actions are easily understood and learned. I saw that on top of being a transaction knowledge and service business, our industry is a script or conversation and dialogue skilled-based business. I had to commit to getting onto the path of mastering these. I discovered that and you've heard me say this, quote this part many times, time on task over time was the simple secret that helped me become very good. Okay. Interestingly, what might have held me up the most was that I had naively bought into the popular myth, it takes money to make money. As a result, I naturally assumed I couldn't successfully lead generate because I thought it would just cost too much with what little I had. However, once I experienced how buyers and sellers find and choose a real estate agent, I then grasped two fundamental truths. First, that lead generation doesn't have to cost money at all if I don't want it to. And second, that if and when I do spend money, it doesn't have to be as risky as I imagined. And finally, I just plain fought it. I hadn't passed a sales behavioral test, excuse me, I'd been given in college, so I truly didn't feel at all like a natural lead generator. But as I look around the industry, it dawned on me that very few people have the perfect sales profile and that no one is truly a natural lead generator. The gift of gab should never be mistaken for natural sales skill. It became obvious to me that everyone has to master the specific and meaningful scripts or conversations, dialogues, and skills of lead generation to be really successful. Once I got these myths and erroneous thoughts out of my head, I was able to put my head down and get after it. In time, the results I had hoped for started to show up. When I was able to connect the dots between effort and results, I had a huge aha. I now saw that what I did on the front end with lead generation got me sales results on the back end. This connection opened my eyes to how effort and success were linked. I became motivated to put in the necessary effort and also began to enjoy it. I knew that when I generated leads, the desired results would follow. Where is this man today?
On top.
And how did he start?
At the bottom.
And how did he feel?
Like everyone else, probably.
Just like you guys are talking about right now. So is it always going to be easy? No. But remember what he said, the more he did it, the better he got. And he had more fun. Remember, lead generation doesn't have to be horrible. It doesn't have to be just dialing the phone and calling and talking to complete strangers. It should never be cold calls, right? There should always be a reason to call or door knock. For instance, Nikki, those that are telling you you should be door knocking, are they giving you any ideas of what you should be doing when you're door knocking?
Not really.
Yeah. So here's the thing. First of all, a couple things that are super important about lead generating. It should be something that has proven results. Okay. And it should be something that you at least semi enjoy doing. Okay. Now, does that mean that we're going to enjoy every part of lead generation that we do? No. But when it comes to what else am I going to do besides call my sphere, what do you enjoy? So if you're really great at open houses and you enjoy that because people are in front of you and you know that if they came in that house, they're at least thinking about doing a real estate transaction. So that makes it easier to talk to them, right? So if you're good at that, do that. If you go door knocking and you hate it, well, that's probably not on the top of your list, right? However, remember, to do a great open house, you should be inviting the neighbors to the open house. It's not about that the neighbors are going to buy the house. It's about proving to the neighbors how hard you work, right? Because when you have a listing, you're door knocking or calling for open houses, for just listed, for just sold 3 times at least for one listing, right? But there's a reason each time you call or door knock. One is an invitation to an open house. Another is, hey, we just listed your neighbor's house at 123 Main Street, and we promised we'd do everything we could to get the house sold. And that includes asking the neighbors if they know of anyone who wants to move into the area. So now that door knock or that phone call just got easier because you're not calling to bug them. You're calling to help the seller. You're fulfilling a promise you made to your seller. Okay? Versus door knocking or calling for no reason whatsoever. I have no idea what I'm going to say to these people. I'm just going to say my name and where I work. Well, that's not a good way to do that, right, Josh?
Is it common, like if you go door knocking for an open house, that person's door that you're knocking on, they have family or friends that might actually be interested in moving into their neighborhood?
Absolutely.
Quite a bit?
Absolutely. And part of the script that we use, just like that just listed, is, and often it's neighbors in the area that know of ones who want to move into this neighborhood. Do you happen to know of anyone? Right? So absolutely. Then again, when you just sell something, right? I just sold the neighbor's house at 123 Main Street, and we had 5 offers, but only one family was able to live there. We have 4 other families that want this neighborhood. Have you or heard of any of your neighbors wanting to sell their home?
Yeah, you get to pick your neighbor.
Yeah. So when we call, when we door knock, we do it with reason, coming from contribution, right? Not just coldly, not knowing what we're going to say or do. And there's lots of conversation helpers in the PC toolkit, part of those Ignite conversation helpers. Please be reviewing those, study those, practice those. Go to Daily Kickstart and practice them. Because those, just like Gary Keller said that we just read, it's learning those key conversations, how to start them, that's going to be the success behind your business. So don't fight practicing conversations, whether it's uncomfortable or not, because it is part of your job to be successful, is practicing those conversations. So does it help to know that Gary Keller himself felt the same way as you? So, and just imagine, where would we all be if he decided this wasn't for him? Right? And I can tell you, I have worked over my 25 plus years, I have worked with a couple other large companies. And the reason I've been here 10 of my 25 years and have no plans to go anywhere else is because this is a fantastic company. It blows the others out of the water. And that's a personal opinion formed by experience. So he knows a thing or two about what he's doing. Okay, so let's see. Josh says, I'm scared to fail, of course, but I'm also scared to succeed, if that makes sense. It does. Life has always been a struggle. I'm scared to truly be depended on and keep it up continuously going forward because I've never put this much effort into anything else in my life. And if I give it my all and still don't succeed, I'll truly feel like a failure. I've got to get over it and just do it. I love the last part that you said, you've got to get over it and just do it. Because here's the thing. If you give it your all, how are you not going to succeed? Right? When is the only time that we fail?
When we give up and stop trying.
Yeah. If we just won't try or we quit. Because there's no such thing as fail. Does everybody know what fail means? I'm going to put it in the chat.
Assuming it's an acronym.
First attempt in learning.
Yep. First attempt in learning, FAIL. So fail forward all day long. As long as we're learning, we're not failing. Right? So I think it's great that you're putting so much effort into this. And I have seen you step up in doing that, and keep it up, because the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. And here's the thing, you guys, many of you have heard me say this multiple times, and you'll hear me say it multiple times in the future. usually, human nature, most of us spend just enough time doing any one thing to what?
Waste your time.
To waste our time, because we don't do it long enough. We get frustrated when we don't get quick enough results, right? But remember, Gary said time on task over time. So you've got to have patience. Patience is key. And I think part of the problem of today is the society that we live in, everything, we want it now, right? Do you guys remember when I started in this business, okay, we couldn't just email somebody and attach a document to it. We had to get in the car and drive an offer to an agent. If we needed something to close a deal from a bank, we couldn't just have it overnighted, or we could have it overnighted, but we couldn't just have it emailed where we could fix it in 30 seconds. We had to pay money to overnight it at best. And then if we didn't do it by a certain time, overnight was really 2 days away, right? We used to have to wait for faxes that came through on thermal paper. Now, if the internet doesn't give us an answer within a half a second of hitting enter, we all start freaking out. But remember when AOL and the doo-doo, whatever long old noise that made as we were dialing in? And we thought nothing of it because, oh my gosh, if I wait just a couple minutes, I've got access to all these things.
I don't know, Jodi. I think there's a couple people on this call that never heard that sound.
That might be true. But the point is, the farther we go in society, the longer we go, the technology makes things quicker, right? We used to have to wash dishes by hand. Then we got a dishwasher. Now we have dishwashers where we don't even have to rinse our dishes first. I mean, come on. Josh?
Since you've been doing this a long time and you have all that experience, they've made all these advances to like make it easier, make it faster in those various ways. Do you think it's gotten more difficult overall or easier as well, like to be a realtor and just go through the motions of everything between buying and selling?
In my opinion, it's easier than ever.
Yeah.
Because we have so many tools at our fingertips and we can do things so much faster. When I started, like I said, we had to have people come into the office to sign documents or take the documents to them. Then we had to take the signed documents. We had to go back and make copies of them because otherwise we'd have nothing for our records. And then we had to take the signed documents to the list agent if we were presenting an offer, right? Back in the day, we had files this thick, taking up file cabinets wall to wall in the offices. So that all took time, right? Now you get all that time back because you can just send something so quick through email. That's time to go get more business. Now, here's the thing. I want to really knock out another limiting belief that some of you may have. You are probably going to hear a lot about this in your team meetings coming up. Some already are hearing it. If you haven't, you'll hear it soon. Anybody concerned about the lack of listings? Okay. There is a lack of listings. It's a fact, right? However, actually, no, I stated that incorrectly. There isn't a lack of listings. There is a small amount of inventory. Okay. But if all of you go on your MLS and look at how many listings came on the market in the last week or the last month, all of your MLSs had some come on the market. Okay. So if you guys are out there talking to people and putting yourselves out there, those listings can be yours. There is no reason those listings won't be yours. Right? So you're concerned you're not getting them. We'll go out and talk to more people. Right? Go through your sphere. Who's been in their house 7 to 10 years? Who's likely to make a move? Who's getting married? Who's having a kid? Who's having kids graduate from school? Think about the people in your database that are having life changes. How do you know when these life changes are happening? You have
By
to talk
staying in
to
contact with them.
them.
Talking to them. Yeah.
Stay in contact with them. Talk to them. Call them. Ask them. Stalk them on Facebook.
I have a scenario to go over real quick, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So because of my lack of like staying in contact with my database, I have my stepdad's aunt. She lives in Malibu. She was there through the fires. She's been there a long time. And she's selling her house through someone else. And I missed out on that because she knew I was a realtor, but I didn't stay in contact with them. I didn't, ask or wasn't anything. And then I also have an uncle that lives in Granada Hills. He's getting married and downsizing and moving into a new house. And the same realtor, through like a family friend, is helping them as well. And it's because I didn't stay in contact and talk to them. So I definitely feel like had I been lead generating, had I been staying in contact with my SOI, like, a dozen times a year, I definitely could have had both of those. It's just frustrating.
So rather than be upset about that, because it's disappointing, right?
Yeah.
Use that as fuel to keep you going, right? Every time you think, I just don't know if I want to call this person, or I just don't feel like doing this today. Do you want that person to be the next one that sells their house without you?
That's why we got to be in contact with them.
Yeah. And remember, every conversation doesn't have to revolve around real estate. You have to build those relationships and build that rapport. Because think about in this last year, Josh, if you'd have done that through the whole year, when you did it and nothing came of it, it could have been discouraging, but then you'd be building that pipeline, right? I've told you, I think most of you have heard the story about the agent that I was coaching that thought his SOI wasn't working. And when I asked, and he wanted to start paying for leads from 2 different sources, lots of money. And I'm like, why? Well, it's just not working. Everybody says no. He was so discouraged by the no's, he couldn't see the pipeline he had been building. And 5 minutes before that question came up, I had asked him, and I apologize if you've heard this story, but I know a couple people haven't, and it will benefit them. 5 minutes before that, he had told me he had 5 listings coming up within the next 2 months. And so I said, let's back up. You said you had 5 listings coming. Where'd you get those? And he stopped to think, and he's like, SOI, 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 open house, SOI. But wait, you just told me your SOI wasn't working. You should have seen his face. Literally, his face changed. His body changed. And I said, did you realize that when you told me that? He's like, no. Because he was so discouraged by the current no's, he couldn't see what had been happening.
That's how I'd been feeling, but it works if you work it, I guess, right?
That's the key. It works if you work it. Just like that dishwasher. If you expect it to wash the dishes, you've got to turn it on, right? If you don't turn it on, it's not going to wash the dishes.
And load it, of course.
There you go. So it is up to us. We have to do the work, and it's work. But where else can you work for, say, 5 hours a day if you chose to, really, and make $20,000 a month?
Robbing banks? No.
Because I don't think we have anyone from Tulare County on here today. That's the only one that doesn't have an average commission of $18,000 to $20,000. A couple of you have pockets where it might not be that high. It brings your average down a little, but still, you're looking at $15,000, $17,000 at a low commission. And look at how little work you really have to do in the scheme of things. So what if I were to tell all of you, okay, it's May 2nd. If you don't have a listing by May 31st, the DRE is going to revoke your license and you'll never be allowed to have it again. What would you do?
Better get on it.
You'd work your butt off and you'd go find a listing, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if I were to promise you approximately $15,000 by the end of June? But in order to do that, you have to have a listing by May 15th. What would you do?
And find a listing.
Guess what? Go get a listing by May 15th and you can have about $15,000 by the end of June. That's even with that's 2 weeks to show it for a 45-day escrow. I like that. Work harder.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you doing? So let me ask you, it's almost 2:00 in the afternoon, and you don't have to answer this out loud. This is something that I want you to internally answer. You can share if you would like. What have you done today to get business? And if you've not spent a minimum of 2 hours of your time today attempting to get business in one way or another, you haven't done enough. So think about that. I want you to think about after this call, what am I going to do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, even Saturday to get business? So that being said, I do have 2 other points I want to make before we're done here. If you do open houses, especially if you're doing them both days during the weekend, or even if you're doing them one day during the week, please take another day off somewhere. Do not work this business 7 days a week. Okay. People will tell you to do that. There will be top agents that will tell you to do that. And we're going to coach you to work hard. And if you don't have business, you have no other job but to lead generate. But here's the thing. If you don't take a day off during the week somewhere, you will burn out. And we don't want that to happen. Do not work this business 7 days a week. If you want to work it 6 days a week to get yourself going, by all means, but you need to take a day off. Okay. And that means a full day off. That doesn't mean, I'm only going to do an open house for a couple hours and I've got the rest of the day. That means take a full day off. Recharge, spend time with your family, do what's going to help you keep going. Do not work this business 7 days a week, and do not work this business late into the night. Okay, you guys have to take care of yourselves too if you want to keep going, because you do need to work hard to get this business up and running. It's a lot of work. So make sure you're taking care of yourself, okay? And the other point, I thank you, Josh, for putting classes in there, because here's the thing that everyone needs to understand about classes. And I have said this before, the PC calendar is important. The things on the PC calendar you should be doing if your schedule allows it, meaning, and what I mean by that is not because, I'm going to go show a house, or I'm going to go do this, or I'm going to go do that, because if you have another job that precludes you from it, that's pretty much your only valid excuse for not attending something that's on the PC calendar. Okay. We understand that. We're not going to get in the way of that. We all realize people have jobs while they're getting things going. If you have child priorities with schools and have to take care of those things are important too. Okay. But barring something like that, there's really no valid excuse to not attend what's in your PC calendar, because those are the things that are going to give you the building blocks to build your business and to be successful and profitable. Now, that being said, just like you all have seen in our orientation, there's a ton of training, right? Between PC, between the Market Center, Keller Williams, there is lots and lots and lots of training. Okay. if that training, if that class does not pertain to your immediate business, what is going to help you right now, what you're working on, don't go. Because you can get so bogged down into every training that you're not working your business. I don't care how great the class is or how great the trainer is, because we got a lot of great ones out there. But if it's not going to help your business now, it's going to hurt your business now, because it's going to take you away from lead generating. Okay. If it's going to truly help your business with your current goals and where you're at, by all means, go, and go with the intent of learning one thing that you will immediately implement in your business. Because if you don't immediately implement something from a class that you go to, there was no point in going. Does everyone here know who Gene Rivers is? He's a pretty amazing guy. One of my absolute favorite people in Keller Williams. And he might have, if you've been in any one of his classes, you might have heard this, but he gives an amazing listing seminar class that's a few hours. I've taken it and it's phenomenal. And I encourage everyone to take it. He had somebody take his class, and a month later was in another one of the same class. And Gene asked him, "What are you doing here? Didn't you just do this a month ago?" He's like, "Oh yeah, it was so great. I just had to come hear it again." He's like, "Oh really? So how many listings have you got?" "Oh, none." "Well, what did you implement from the other class?" "Oh, well, I really haven't had time to do anything." He kicked him out. He wouldn't let him sit in the class. It was a 4-hour class. He needed to go use that 4 hours and go implement what he learned the month before. True story. Okay, guys, great conversation again today. Any last thoughts, questions, comments before we go?
Jodi, what about the Ask a Coach? I mean, do you go on there, or do you just need to go on there if you have a question?
It's just if you have a question. Ask a Coach isn't a class. It's there to help you when you need it. So, and that's why we have them on the calendar, so you know when they are and all different times of the day. So go in there. If you have a question, you can, 5 minutes, quick question, get out, do your thing. If it's benefiting you, you can stay. But if it's not benefiting you, don't go in there just to sit and hear what others ask, right? Use that time.
What's the growth group?
The growth coaching is for seasoned agents. So that's for agents who have completed their original PC agreement and they choose to stay in coaching because coaching is benefiting them, and it's higher level coaching.
Got it.
Yeah. We're past the day-to-day questions and we're on to just focusing on the business.
Meat and potatoes.
Yep. But yeah, make sure, guys, even though there's 5 group coachings on the calendar, you only go to one, the one that you chose when you started, or if you've been moved to Momentum, you go to that one. And when the time comes, we will offer the growth coaching to you. So everyone will have the opportunity for all of them at some point. One at a time.
So I real quick, I went through, took me about, on the MLS, there's quite a bit of coming soons in our area in Orange County. A lot. And I went through and called all the out of area agents to see if they needed open houses. And even them, they know we're traveling down there. I was like, okay. And she goes, but we'll keep you in mind. I'm like, okay. So it's real tight. So I gotta go get my own listings.
Yep. That's one way to guarantee yourself open houses. Go get your own listing.
But then be generous with letting other agents hold an open house in your listing.
Yeah, I hope to get to that point.
Remember, you can do one listing in the same time as 5 buyers. So do you want to make 20,000 or 120,000 in the same amount of time?
No.
There's listings out there. So go find them.
Is that how it works, Jodi? Like taking on a listing is as time consuming as about like 5 buyers?
5 buyers are the same amount of time as one listing. So you could have, if you have 5 listings, you're going to save a lot of time and make a lot more money. Buyers are a lot of time. Not saying don't work with them, but they're a lot of time. So we don't want to focus on buyers. We want to focus on listings. So all your conversations need to revolve around listings. The buyers will come. Okay. Talk about listings. You'll still get buyers. Okay,
Yeah, I was
guys.
gonna say that's what Gene said. You should get probably 2 to 3 listings off of one.
Yeah, for sure. Well, have a great day, everyone.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Jodi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.